And he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. You may be seated. Well, here we are at the beginning of our long journey to Jerusalem, our 40-day Lenten fast that we all celebrate together as Christians. I find that this is always, for me, a very special time of the year. You would imagine that with 40 days of heightened spiritual disciplines and 40 days of fasting, that we as Christians would sort of dread it. That we would be thinking to ourselves, oh man, no meat, and I have to have less food, and I can't eat snacks, and there goes the ice cream, and so on and so forth. But I'll tell you what, after years and years of fasting throughout Lent, I always find myself looking forward to it. It seems always to me to be sort of a relief. And I think that some of the things that we'll talk about today, about the fast, and about, in a sense, the freedom, really, that we can gain from it, is something that I've really come to appreciate about fasting. As we look at our gospel today, we find Jesus himself going out into the wilderness after his baptism to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. And it's on this very basis that the church saw itself as well as following in our Lord's footsteps and seeing these 40 days of fasting and of battling with the world and the flesh and the devil, that it instituted Holy Lent in this fast that we all participate in today. And I believe that as we look at Jesus Christ and we look at his own fast, at his own battle with the world and the flesh and the devil, those three things indeed. And I think that we find Satan tempting him with the same disciplines that we ourselves are called to undertake, with fasting and almsgiving and prayer. And so I think that as we look at Jesus Christ and his battle and his solutions, I think that we too can find a way to come out through Holy Lent as victorious on the other side. And so let's take some time and look at each of these different temptations of our Lord. So first of all, it says this. It says, afterwards he was hungry, and the tempter came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. But he answered, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. You've probably heard it said a number of times that a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And while I can attest that that is very true of men, I think that it is also true spiritually of mankind in general, that the way to our soul is in a sense through our stomachs or through our mouths or through food. Look at the Old Testament lecture that we had today, right? From Genesis chapter 1. What was the means by which mankind fell? Other than by the very desires of his stomach, instead of the desires of his heart. This concept of appetite is one that is extremely important for instance, the Apostle Paul in all of his ethical discussions in his epistles. And this concept of appetite is also one that became very important for all of the ethical developments in the early church. And I think it's a concept that we ourselves need to sort of rediscover in our world today. I find very often that in our ethical discussions, it often just sort of boils down into commandment. Do this, not that. Bottom line, there's no more discussion about morality other than that. But I believe that we need to push a little bit deeper. I think it's time for us, especially in the time of Lent, to begin examining our inmost desires and appetites. Because at the end of the day, you won't transgress a command unless you first have an appetite to do so. This concept of appetite is one which St. Paul speaks about all the time. And you may remember St. Paul referring to this concept of the flesh, right? All throughout his epistles. That our real problem with sin is really our flesh. Because from our flesh comes all of these desires which are contrary to the ultimate good for which we were made. Excuse me. And I think that something that's really important for us to do is to begin, especially during this time of Lent, to begin to become cognizant of those appetites that are within us, not only for food, but those appetites for things that we really shouldn't have, for those things that aren't good for us. The lust is itself an appetite, and this impatience is an appetite. All of these little hungers, these animalistic hungers inside of us that we long for, that sort of lash out in the last moment, unexpected and unanticipated. To follow them is at the very heart of sin. It's where sin begins. It's where it comes from. And I find that to battle the flesh, that this sort of metaphor here with appetite is really important, because I believe that the solution is in the same place. The solution to our battle with the flesh and with our inner animal appetites is in fasting. The metaphor is with food, but I think that the answer begins to be with food as well. Fasting does something extremely important for us. What it does is it puts space of deliberation between us and the fulfillment of something that we desire. There's nothing immoral about food in and of itself, but it has this similarity with these desires that lie deep within our flesh, this sort of hunger. And at this time of year, especially as we're beginning to fast, I find it really interesting how easily I just fall into shoving something in my mouth. It's so easy to walk past the pantry and be like, oh, I want a chip, and just put it in my mouth. It's so easy in this time of fasting to find myself just sort of standing in front of the refrigerator and say to myself, what am I doing? I can't have any of this stuff. It's amazing, isn't it, how often we allow our appetites to take over without even thinking about it, without any form of deliberation, without any form of thought. And I find that the real value in fasting is that it enables us to place deliberation between feeling and action. And my goodness, that sure is something that we need, right? When you find yourself getting impatient with someone, the anger just sort of comes out, right? Because we haven't allowed ourselves to put any space, any deliberation between feeling and action. And if we are to become the masters of ourselves, if we are to become our own moral creatures, then I suggest that that is precisely what we need, is a space of deliberation, to look at our feelings and say to ourselves, is this really the best thing? Should I really act on this feeling, or should I not? And I think that we as humans will find ourselves in a much better place, and also, mind you, much more human, if we allow ourselves to develop the will necessary to deliberate on our feelings before we act on them. And that is what fasting gives us a practice to do. I recently watched the movie. I'm going to reread the book because the movie was really different than the book. But The Call of the Wild by Jack London just came out as a movie. It's a decent movie. But I sort of remembered after watching the movie that in the books, Buck, this dog, goes through all these different terrible owners and eventually makes his way up to Alaska. And at the end of the book, he becomes a wild dog, joins a wolf pack, and so on and so forth. What the story is really about is about Buck breaking free from his masters, who represent each of them vices, and eventually becoming his own master. And I think that this is the moral development that stands in front of us all as we face Lent in the discipline of fasting. The goal here is for us to break free from our vices, to walk away from our animal instincts, to place that human deliberation and act of the will between our feeling and our action, and at the end of it, to truly become our own masters. And I think that it's one of the reasons that I've really come to appreciate Lent and look forward to it and get sort of excited about it in a really weird sort of a way, because it gives me the opportunity once again to deliberate and become my own master. And so I think that's the first lesson that we can take from this, is the battle with the flesh, and the answer to the battle with the flesh is the discipline of fasting here in Lent. The next one I want to look at, I don't want to take these in order. I'm actually going to go on to the last one next. And so as we look at these, if you go down to the bottom, it says at the very end, again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And he said to him, all these I will give to you if you will fall down and worship me. And Jesus said to him, Begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. So as we think through our sort of inner battles with the world, the flesh, and the devil, if the last one represented the flesh, I think, excuse me, it's allergy season. I think this one very much represents the world. And here we have even Christ himself. Imagine this, can you, for a second? Excuse me. We have Jesus Christ, who is God himself, right? God himself, who created all things, who possesses all things, who owns all things, who is in all things. And how do we have the devil tempting him in this respect? We have him taking him up onto a high mountain, showing him all the kingdoms of the earth, and saying, I'll give all of these to you. Now, first of all, there's a great irony in that, isn't there? Because they all already belong to God. Right? They're already his, in a sense. But in another sense, I think there's this beautiful way in which Jesus Christ and God himself refused he had them, they were his, but in a sense he didn't possess them. He didn't take them. He didn't wrest control of them. As you look out at the world, there's a certain way in which we as human beings like to do things. And I think we like to project that back onto God. The way that we like to do things is with money and power. Right? If we can't have something the easy way, then we take it by force. We take it by violence. Who is it that has the most power in this world? It's always the richest. And I think that we find God taking a very different path. The devil goes to Jesus Christ and says, you know what? Look before you. Aren't you kind of going about this the most difficult way possible? Here, you've come into the world and you're a poor man. Here, you've come into the world and you have no armies. Here, you've come into the world and you've got no money. You've come into the world as a weak man with no power. And you're going to go through, you can see everything that's coming at you. You can see ahead of you all of the suffering. You can see ahead of you the cross. You can see ahead of you death itself. But look at this, my friend. I can give it all to you in the wink of an eye. You can bypass all of that suffering. You can bypass all of that trouble. And here it is. I can hand it to you. Do you see what would have happened to the very fabric of the universe if God himself had taken that route? Am I right? My friends, in Lent, we need to be confronted with something that isn't so obvious as the hunger pangs in our stomach. But it's the fact that every single day, the devil presents to us a way of going about things. The way of the world. The way of power, the way of money, the way of sex, the way of glamour. And it's all the wrong way of going about it. It's the best way to totally destroy our inner selves and inner lives. And I'm always amazed despite how much it has failed the church throughout history, how often we ally ourselves with political power and riches instead of with the way of Jesus Christ, the Via Dolorosa, the way of suffering, the way of the cross, Via Crucis, the way of death, mortification, as a means of obtaining all things. What was true of Christ is also true of us. You know that? God does indeed possess everything. And because God possesses us and we possess him, we possess all things as well. We don't need the riches and the power and the glory. What we need is God himself. The way that we come to realize this through our Lenten disciplines is through the discipline of almsgiving. What is it that we say every time we bring up the offerings to the altar? All things are thine, O Lord. And you can say it. You say it every Sunday. All things are thine, O Lord. And of thine own have we given thee. Right? Isn't there a wonderful lesson in that? All things are thine, O Lord, and of thine own have we given thee. Riches are nothing in and of themselves. Power is nothing in and of itself. If anything, it's something that we've taken from God and used improperly. And so what is the correction to that? Almsgiving. Show the devil that your money and your things have no power over you. Show him that they're not your master. And prove it by just getting rid of some of it. I mean, for goodness sakes, my friends, how much junk do we have? I'm the type of person that likes to walk out into the woods by myself and just sort of see how long I can make it. I've got a little survival pack that I keep with me, and I watch survivalist videos and things like that. It's amazing how little we need to live. We don't really need that much. We can get by, but yet here we stockpile things upon things upon things in our houses, and monies upon monies and our monies upon monies, and we fool ourselves into thinking that we need it. But I can tell you in general it's not true. How many days have we ruined because we've simply gone along with this game that the world has made? Show the devil who's really in charge. Are your things in charge of you, or are you in charge of your things? We'll prove it this Lent by what you do with your alms. And so the solution to the flesh is fasting, and the solution to the world is almsgiving. And now finally, let's look at the last little bit here. It says in the middle, then the devil took him to the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. For it is written, he will give his angels charge over you. And on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against the stone. So this little bit here I find really amazing. We as humans, I think, we tend to look at Jesus very differently than we look at each other. We say, oh yeah, but he was God. Right? Have you ever heard of someone give Jesus that excuse? Jesus did all these wonderful, amazing things, and we say, yeah, but he was God. That, whenever you hear that response to something that Jesus did, I warn you, it's a heresy of the early church that's slipping and sneaking back in to our present theology. Yes, Jesus was fully God, but the Holy Church also affirms that Jesus Christ was fully man. Do not ever undervalue the meaning of Jesus Christ's full, total, and complete manhood, in his full, total, and complete association with your humanity, with the human experience. Everything that is proper to mankind, aside from sin, which first of all isn't proper to mankind, Jesus Christ experienced because he was fully human. Here at the end of this 40 days in the wilderness, here at the end of these 40 days of fasting and temptation, can you imagine what sort of a mental toll that would have taken on any human being? And Jesus Christ is absolutely no exception. And here we see Jesus Christ himself in the depths of depression and of despair and of inner mental turmoil. Here we see Jesus Christ himself at the very extremes of these realities, being tempted by suicide itself, with the devil right there at his right hand. My friends, know this. No matter the depths of your despair, no matter the depths of your suffering, no matter the depths of your depression, of your despondence, or of your self-loathing, know this, that Jesus Christ has been there. And not only has he been there, but he is there with you in those very moments, no matter how alone you feel. And I think that this is such an important thing for each of us to realize. Because we like to take Jesus Christ and turn him into something that he's not, which is some Platonic distant deity off in the distance. When in reality what he is the incarnate God here amongst us in our midst. There's a specific theory of atonement that a lot of people haven't liked through history. But it's the theory of the imitatio Dei, the imitation of God. The idea that Jesus Christ has gone before us and we're to follow in his footsteps. Now, to some, this smacks of works righteousness. But I don't think so, because once our righteousness is taken care of, and I think it has been, we're free to imitate God. And we should. We need to follow in his footsteps. We need to remember that Jesus Christ became and has become one of us. He has shown us the way, the path to becoming truly and fully human. And that if we too are to become truly and fully human, then we must follow him in that path. And my friends, guess what? That is precisely what prayer is. To stay close to Jesus Christ, to experience him in our flesh, and to follow him every day. To stay close to him no matter how difficult or how dark it seems, because we know that if we simply follow him, he will lead us to the other light on the side of the resurrection. And this, my friends, is the final lesson to take from these verses. If the battle with the flesh is answered by fasting, if the battle with the world is answered by almsgiving, then the battle with the devil is answered through prayer. By drawing near to Christ, by following closely in his footsteps, by keeping your eyes fixed entirely on him, because he is the source of all goodness, and he is all goodness itself in all things. So let us seek him in all places, at all times, and enjoy his fellowship. And so today I think we've seen that Jesus Christ's fast, his 40 days in the wilderness, corresponds to our own 40 days in Lent. And my friends, I suggest we make most of it. I hope that you, like me and numerous others, can come to enjoy and appreciate the disciplines of Lent and exert yourself with a holy sort of excitement as you go through these 40 days. Why? Not because it's a fun thing to be without food or give away your alms, but because by doing it, you become the master of yourself. You become more truly human. The answer to the flesh is fasting. The answer to the world is almsgiving. And the answer to the devil is prayer. And he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.